The Boston Celtics are completely capable of making it to the NBA Finals for a second straight year, and here's why. They're 4th in points scored per game, 6th in three-point percentage, 7th in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 2nd in defensive rating. So they're literally top 10 in every important category, which is not very common even amongst the most elite playoff teams. But what really puts them over the top is their 6'9" superstar Jason Tatum. Tatum's averaging 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists while shooting 46% from the field, 85% from the free throw line, and 35% from 3 on 9 attempts per game. The 25-year-old had an MVP-level season, and if he wasn't slightly overshadowed by Nikola Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis, he definitely could have won the award. And that's not to discredit Tatum at all. Him not winning MVP had less to do with him and more to do with how historic of a season those three giants had. Tatum is one of the best scorers in the NBA, and honestly, the only scorers we would put over him are Kevin Durant and Steph in terms of pure scoring ability. He can score at all three levels better than a majority of the NBA, and he's just really hard to game plan against for an entire series. In last year's Eastern Conference Finals and in the Finals, he finally showcased some pretty solid playmaking ability. He averaged 7 assists in last year's Finals and even had 13 assists in Game 1, and that was a huge step up for his career. Because think about it, every NBA superstar is either a good or a great passer. Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Luka, LeBron, Steph, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and SGA all fit into that category. And that's because they have to. If you're a superstar, you can expect many double teams and even triple teams thrown at you almost every single night. So being able to affect the game without scoring can be the difference between winning and losing a ball game. And this season, Tatum is averaging 4.6 assists per game, which is his career high. So it is absolutely obvious he is focusing more on that aspect of his game. Another reason he's so hard to guard is because of his elite finishing at the rim. He's actually 15th in shots in the restricted area, finishing 67% on 6 attempts per game. At his height, possessing that soft touch and finesse around the rim is almost like a cheat code, because again, he's nearly 6'10", and when he charges inside, it becomes very obvious on just how long he is. His finishing and aggressiveness when driving inside, of course, draws a ton of fouls. He's averaging 8 free throws a game and sinking them at 85%, so he's getting a bucket one way or another once he penetrates the lane, and we are seeing a lot of that in this Celtics vs. Hawks series. When it comes to shooting the 3 ball, he isn't as efficient or accurate as other pure scorers, but he is an above-average shooter who's very high volume. He basically shoots until he catches a rhythm, and when he catches rhythm from 3, you might as well be heading into your locker room early if you're the opposing team, because then there is no way you can stop him. He's no slouch on the defensive end either. In fact, he's one of the best wing defenders in the NBA, especially in the playoffs, where he is fully locked in again. He's a very versatile defender who can defend 3 to 4 positions, and once he sits down in the chair and moves those feet, he can be a scary good defensive stopper. But Tatum isn't the entire reason the Celtics could be holding the trophy at the end of the year, because his partner in crime, Jalen Brown, is right up there with him in terms of productivity. Brown is averaging 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game while shooting 49% from the field, 33% from 3, and 76% from the line. And honestly, when you look at his scoring numbers, he's just as good a scorer as Tatum. We're not saying he is Tatum, but they are closer than many realize. He's more dominant in the paint than Tatum. He's ranked 12th in the NBA in shots in the restricted area, finding 70% on 6 attempts per game. And he may be the best finishing shooting guard in the NBA, with Anthony Edwards being his only competition, and if you want to label SGA as a shooting guard, then of course he's up there as well. Brown isn't as good of a free throw shooter as Tatum, but when you're making over 70% in the paint, his 76% free throw percentage is good enough. But could you imagine if he was a better free throw shooter? He would surely be averaging around 27 to 28 points per game, which is absolutely elite. And not to mention, he's shooting his lowest 3-point percentage since 2018. So again, just imagine if he improved his free throws and even just slightly improved his 3. But even still, he's been fantastic offensively this season, and he and Tatum have a strong case of being the best duo in the NBA right now. And like Tatum, he's also improved his passing ability, averaging 3.5 assists, which ties his career high from last year. On the defensive end, he's pretty good too. He's averaging about a steal per game, and he's just a really good team defender. He's a good on-ball defender and off-ball defender, and plus he has the size and athleticism to defend multiple positions, which is a common theme on the Celtics. But the Tatum and Brown duo may need to add a third, because Marcus Smart is one of the better all-around point guards in the NBA. He's averaging 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists per game, while shooting 33% from 3 and 74% from the line. He's never really been a scorer, but he'll hit the occasional 3 or get some hustle points. But his passing is what really makes him valuable on offense. He is without a doubt one of the most underrated passers in the NBA, and it's really his chemistry with his teammates that stands out. When watching him facilitate, it's obvious he knows where his teammates like getting the ball, and he's just always moving the ball in general. But of course, he isn't making millions just for his offense, because the reigning Defensive Player of the Year is still a top 10 defender at worst. When you combine his hustle with his outstanding defensive IQ, you have the perfect defender. There's nothing he can't do defensively, and that's not something you can say about many players in the NBA when it comes to their defense. He can play one-on-one perimeter defense, one-on-one post defense. He can play off-ball, great help defender, great in the passing lanes, and not to mention, he's one of the best at drawing charges. And whether you call them flops or not doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, those are still forced turnovers and count as defensive stops. It isn't pretty, but it wins you games. He's a huge reason why we strongly believe the Celtics can go on to win a championship. But we think the most underrated defender on the roster is actually Derek White. He's averaging 12 points while shooting 38% from 3, so he's been a really good catch-and-shoot option for him. And he can even create a little when he has to. But on defense, he has been a serious problem. And we mean that in the best way possible. Unless you're the other team, of course. And he's not an elite defender, nor will he make an all-defensive team, but he's causing havoc whenever he's on the court. And not to mention, he's averaging almost a full block at just 6'4", which is second in the NBA among all guards. His on-ball defense is definitely top 10 at his position. He's extremely quick laterally and excels at cutting off and redirecting ball handlers. And when you combine White's hustle and Smart's hustle on defense, you have a championship defense just from those two alone. But even they aren't the anchor of the Celtics defense. And although he may struggle to stay healthy, he's just as effective as both of them combined when he's 100%. And yes, we're talking about Robert Williams. He may have only played 35 games this year and only averaged 1.4 blocks, but there is no denying that he is much needed in the playoffs for his defense. And he usually does play limited minutes, but that's totally fine because Al Horford can provide solid defense in his absence. Horford isn't a great shot blocker, nor has he ever been, but he will challenge anyone at the rim, and he's one of the better post defenders in the league. He's also miles more versatile than Williams on defense. Horford is shooting an insane 44% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, and plus he's a solid rebounder and passer, so the Celtics have excellent depth at center. But you could also say the same thing at the point guard position. Backing up Smart, Malcolm Brogdon is averaging 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists off the bench while shooting 48% from the field, 87% from the free throw line, and 44% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. He's making a strong case for being the best sixth man in the NBA, and his solid all-around game is why he's a very valuable rotational piece. He is literally the perfect role player. He can do whatever you need of him on any given night. He can handle the ball, be a playmaker for others, create for himself, catch and shoot, and he's a good defender. And not to mention, he's a pretty good shooter. And so is Sam Hauser. Sam is shooting over 40% on 4 attempts per game. Hopefully, this video helps you understand why the Celtics are a serious threat to get back into the finals. They have no real weaknesses, and there just isn't really a team that matches up with them on paper, other than the Bucks, of course. But what do you think? Will Boston make it to the finals this season? Let us know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.